everyone. This is the last session for today's conference, and the topic is EU initiatives, 3 use cases supporting energy investments under REPowerEU. We've put together for you a very interesting panel of speakers who I'm going to invite now on the stage, starting with Hadrien Michel from the European Commission DG Energy. He's a policy officer who is going to tell us more about the Energy Efficiency Financing Institutions Group. Please, Hadrien, over here. Michele Sansoni from CINEA, who is going to tell us about the European City Facility. And Luigi Piparo, who is going to tell us about the Smart Cities Marketplace. Luigi, please, over here. We'll start with a presentation by Hadrien on the Energy Efficiency Financing Institutions Group. Hadrien, you can take the lectern over there, and there is a clicker where you can use to move the slides. We'll have time for questions from the audience after this presentation, so please prepare these.
Okay, so it's working. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Hadrien Michel, I work in DG Energy in the Energy Efficiency Unit, and I'm managing the initiative which is called EEFIG, which some of you may know already. It has a long track record because it was established back in 2013 with DG Energy and UNEP-FI as co-conveners. What is EEFIG? Well, basically, you may think as EEFIG as a kind of predecessor of what the Investors Dialogue is doing. So it's mainly a platform for discussion between stakeholders and experts in the field, but not only for discussion, of course. The aim and the final goal is to have a number of deliverables, either through taking the form of tools or reports that are being published on the EEFIG website, and that can provide recommendations to the Commission and to other stakeholders in the field of energy efficiency. As I said, it's been quite a long time since it started operating, and today we count with no less than 340 members. Because not all of them are active. We have been, it's a living animal. So over the years, some people may jump in, some people may leave. But they represent all in all more than 100 organizations. So it's quite impressive to see how many institutions are willing to engage into this platform for discussion. May I ask for the, can I switch the slides myself?
With the clicker, yeah.
Great. And I didn't see that I had squeezed the first slide, so I will go directly to the next one. So how does it work in practice? Basically, the way it is organized is that the Commission is working on is thinking about specific topics where the working groups of EEFIG can be contributing to. And these working groups are created ad hoc. They count with 15 to 30 members, depending on the topic, of course. And they are asked and tasked by the Commission to work on this through the means of a consultant for over a year, maybe 2 years, and then produce a report. And these reports are published on the EEFIG website, which is hosted by the Commission website. And they are also being presented in external events. We had a number of sessions, of course, during the European Sustainable Energy Weeks over the years, but also during the COPs as side events or as a proper standalone events as well. Another feature is that the members benefit from having regular information through the means of a newsletter, which is published on a trimestral basis and keeps them informed. And it's an interesting tool also, not only to keep them updated, but to attract their interest into participating to new working groups when they are being launched. So that's something which is helping us building a proper energy efficiency family, so to say. So I will not go through the past so much, But what I can tell you is that it all began with the 2015 landmark report on energy efficiency, which was mapping, the state of play of the market, the challenges that the energy efficiency investment were facing, and some of the solutions. And since this landmark report, a number of tools were developed. I will go back to them in more details in the next slides. But also just wanted to highlight the fact that no less than a dozen of working groups have been established, and approximately the same number of reports have been or will be published in the next few months. So I will give you some examples, and I invite you, if you're interested, to use the presentation and scan the QR code if you want to have direct access to these reports. So let me tell you about this example of the Working Group of Financing Practices for Energy Efficiency, which is basically an update of the 2015 report. And the need for the update is, of course, the fact that the regulatory framework has dramatically evolved since then, with, of course, the more stringent energy targets for 2030, and consequently, the even larger need for investment and the even larger investment gap to be filled. So we estimate in this report that no less than 3,000 billion euros from now until 2030 are needed, and when approximately only 250 billion of public funds would be available until this date. So you can see that the estimated investment gap is around 275 billion per year until 2030. So the report basically first of all, took a look back in the past and looked at the previous recommendations from 2015, looked at what has been achieved since then, which boxes were ticked. We can name a few, there's a lot of them, but we can name the standardization of processes when reporting, monitoring the energy efficiency investments by financial institutions, or we can name the Eurostat guidance note on energy efficiency accounting for public administrations and central governments. Of course, from this, the report not only reiterated the previous recommendations, but came up with new ones. And I can name a few, for example, the need for enhanced standardization and transparency of energy performance certificates across the different member states, the need for increased technical assistance support from the EU in order to help to the deployment of one-stop shops. And this is currently existing with a number of EU facilities, such as the ENER facility, but the recommendation is to further contribute with European budget to these facilities. Another recommendation is, for example, the need to strengthen the market of ESCO's energy service companies, especially for the industrial sector, and the development of new instruments such as on-bill or on-tax financing. Another example is the report on the risk assessment of energy efficiency loans, which is interesting because it comes from the big picture, the previous example I told you about, and it narrows it down until the risk perception of banks when it comes to invest in this market. And this was really interesting because they came up with the assumption that not only the risk perception was biased, because it is not, their assumption was not that the default risk was higher for green products as compared to traditional lending products, but all the contrary. And to prove this assumption, they went through the assessments of more than 800,000 mortgages as a database. So it's quite an impressive piece of work that they've been doing. And the result of their investigation is quite telling, because it says that energy efficiency customers are, on average, 20% less likely to default. And that's very important, all other things being equal. So it excludes the revenue bias, which is normally used as an argument to say that, yes, of course, homes being renovated, this is something that is affordable only for the wealthiest households and not for the rest. This is excluding this bias, and still you have a comparative advantage with the lower probability of default for energy efficiency investments. And in addition to that, they found out that there is, on average again, a market premium for these green mortgages, which is ranging from 5 to up to 10% for the most efficient homes. And just for you to know that these investigations have been conducted similarly in different member states by, for example, the Bank of Portugal, the Bank of Netherlands, and they have found out similar conclusions. So it's quite interesting, because it really helps convincing financial institutions that energy efficiency is bankable, basically. Another example of the report is one of the multiple benefits of energy efficiency investments, which has been widely studied, but mainly through academic research. And the purpose of the report was to come up with suggestions in order for the financial institutions to use these multiple benefits as an input to their decision-making procedures. So to do so, the working group has proceeded to a classification of benefits and, whenever possible, quantify them economically. And they have also developed a monetization tool. And they have tested it on a specific market segment, which is the commercial real estate segment. And they found out that the internal rate of return could go up by integrating those multiple benefits by 2 to 4 percentage points. That's enormous, really. It has a number of explanations to this, to name a few: the increased market value, the increase of the rental price of the renovated assets, the increase in the occupancy rate, and of course the health and well-being benefits related to renovation in terms of noise or air quality and so forth. As I told you, EEFIG has been producing a lot of reports, but also a number of tools which are still being used by the community, and that's one of the key success stories, I believe, of the EEFIG. For example, let me name the de-risking energy efficiency platform, which is a platform gathering a database of more than 24,000 energy efficiency projects over Europe, evenly distributed between buildings and industry. And the interesting thing is that, of course, as you may think, there's a number of projects which come from EU-funded programs, such as the ENER facility or the H2020 programs or whatever. But it's a tiny minority of the number of projects. That means that the vast majority of the projects in the database come directly from member states through their energy agencies, for example, or also from the financial institutions themselves. And that's a very proactive approach to filling the database. And I think that this database is extremely useful to compare the economics and the financial indicators of your own pipeline of project as a financial institution. And it also, that's my strong belief, it will also be used in the future even when EEFIG stops operating, because the bad news is that EEFIG will stop operating as of this year. But the good news, I will come back to this later on, I have a good news for you. And of course, we keep on feeding this database, and the more data you get, the more reliable the data is. Another tool is the underwriting toolkit, which is which is interesting because it's between a library and a guidance tool for you to assess your project, your pipeline of projects. So it has a number of features in it, also available on the website. It lists a number of existing practices within the EU but beyond. It explains what are the new innovative financial instruments to support this or that investment. It also develops investment guiding principles, including project life cycle. And all in all, it gives you elements for you as a financial institution to build your own value and risk appraisal tool. So it's very useful and hands-on toolkit. I recommend you that you have a look at how it is working and how can it be replicated in other segments of the energy sector. So what's in there for the future? As I said, and this slide is showing let's say, the investment world that we are facing specifically in energy efficiency, but I believe that this applies to all energy sectors as well, and it simply shows that a lot needs to be done. And for this to become reality, we have decided to go to a next level, and that is stop operating the EEFIG, which is terminating by June of 2023, but replace it with a kind of high-level coalition for energy efficiency, which will build on the results of EEFIG, of course, but which will have the capacity, or at least so that we hope, to attract more financial institutions, to engage them into more quantifiable commitments in terms of investment portfolios, and also to ensure, and this has been one of the dead angles of the EEFIG, is to ensure a more active participation from member states. On this is really because energy efficiency is mainly a local market. So it does not, this feature does not necessarily apply to all energy sectors, but it's a very relevant one for energy efficiency. So in order to move things and deploy things, you need member states on board. So this is one of the reasons why we are going to create a coalition which will be launched this year. We will keep you posted, of course, about the developments of this coalition. And in order to conclude, I will say that EEFIG experience over the year for more than a decade, I think is a precious source of information, but also of inspiration for newer initiatives, because it shows how motivated gathering of financial institutions can lead to very great achievements and very strong recommendations. And you may see from the different evolutions of the legal framework that some of it is going to the direction that was previously pointed out by the EEFIG members. So that's a very, very positive sign. So I think we are more than ready and willing to share our experiences with you. So in case you have any question, we'll be ready to answer this. And just also to highlight the fact that the story is not over, and that thanks to the coalition, we will manage to keep on working actively for the deployment of energy efficiency investments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well for this presentation. Very interesting to hear about the experience of EEFIG. We have time for questions from the audience. So again, if anybody is interested, please indicate by raising your hand. And in the meantime, maybe a question from me. So of course, we are very interested in the experience from EEFIG when it comes to also launching and managing the investors dialogue for clean energy. So maybe a first question in that sense would be, what do you think are the main lessons learned from EFIG when it comes to engaging with financial institutions? What is it that we can learn from in the investors' dialogue when it comes to finding effective ways of engaging with the financial institutions, stakeholders, and having them on board and actively participating in finding solutions for financing of clean energy going forward?
Is it working?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that from all the experience that we had from this, the key factor for success was to identify within the financial institutions world who are the most active players, you know, the best in class. And for this we were quite lucky, I have to say, because we identified the EIB. So, the thing is that it's true that you need some kind of public overarching support, and the EIB was really the ideal candidate for that. But that was in the early stages, because then, as time went by, we saw that there were a number of very active financial institutions. And on this, I think that the identification process was extremely useful thanks to the cooperation with the SEI forums. So that are being held at national level. As I said, energy efficiency is mainly a national market, an aggregation of national markets. And you may have ING very active in the Netherlands, whereas it's BBVA in Spain. And for this, you really need to identify the operators in the member states. And then the information flows back up to the working groups. But I think that, yeah, being oriented at local level was key to our success.
And you continue this engagement now in the context of the coalition, this new initiative that we just heard about. Is anything going to change in terms of your model of cooperation with financial institutions? How do you plan on continuing to engage them in this new initiative?
Well, I think it's continuation and change. Continuation in the sense that indeed the collaboration has been extremely good under EEFIG, and indeed the financial institutions will remain the key stakeholders within the coalition, because they are the ones that may enable, by sending the proper, the right persons into the working groups, by providing the right data that we need to process. So they will be the one enabling the results to be meaningful. That's for sure. So this we need to continue. Yeah. But at the same time, the change is that we need a bigger picture and a bigger field. And that needs a higher level of commitment with the backing of member states. That's extremely important. With the backing maybe of a high-level hierarchy representatives, at least during the launch of the coalition. We need this kind of political support, even if political is applied to the private sector in this case. And this might change. There's another change, maybe evolution, as compared to EEFIG, is that EEFIG needed to fill a gap which was not academic, but let's say a prospective work, in order to demonstrate what the market failures are and what are the potential solutions on a test and trial basis. And I think that EEFIG has been very successful in doing this. Now maybe comes the time for more, so to say, operational commitments. And that's the sense of the coalition. But this is only feasible because we have been working extremely actively during more than 10 years on the content. Mm.
Well, questions from the audience over here. One question, Sarah, if we can. Anybody else? If not, you can also, will be able to ask your questions in the end of the session. We'll also have a moment for Q&A then.
Thank you, François Lassa from EDF. Just a clarification question, because when we're talking about energy efficiency, sometimes we forget that one of the main levers is actually electrification through heat pumps and the efficiency of motor vehicles. So it was not clear to me whether your coalition is actually dealing specifically with electrification, how to boost smart electrification as a key lever of energy efficiency. So could you please clarify that to me, because it was not clear to me, because if the answer is yes, of course, I would love to know if there is some particular lessons you can draw from your activities regarding electrification as a booster of energy efficiency. And if the answer is no, why? Thank you.
Okay. I think the answer is more gearing towards no than yes, but it's not 100% no. Just to explain myself, what EEFIG has been trying to do was to cover the whole range of solutions, and particularly on financial solutions. And this is about putting in place some specific financial instruments or policy regulations, etc., in order to enhance energy efficiency as a whole. And this includes also renovation of buildings or optimization of industrial processes. So it can go, this can be achieved through electrification, but so to say, we have not decided to have a specific technical focus on this because we wanted to have more financial angle to it. But so I'm sure that if you scroll down and look the list of recommendations, especially from the evolution of financing practices, you may have a few dedicated recommendations that I don't remember of as regards the electrification, but that's certainly not the main angle of what EEFIG has been doing so far.
Thank you, Hadrien, for this answer. Any other questions from the audience? If not, maybe just a final one from my side. So it was really interesting to see the deliverables that EEFIG produced. So I was wondering, would you say any of these would be particularly relevant as an example or inspiration for the work we're doing under the Investors Dialogue for Energy, where we focus on all other aspects of the energy sector other than energy efficiency, given the experience you had with developing them, their take-up in amongst their target groups, their added value in general, the feedback you've received from stakeholders?
Well, I mean, of course, the market realities are different from a segment to another. I think that what has been particularly useful for the community and for us as well, I have to say, was the development of tools. The online tools have proven to be extremely effective in trying to identify, operating costs according to the member states where the renovation works are taking place. This is really a highly valuable database, the D platform. I think it's one of the great successes. If I should name only one, that would be this. And also, as I said, because this will still be in place and useful for the stakeholders after EEFIG has lived. So I think that's something that can be a source of inspiration. Then, as regards the reports themselves, the reports. The reports, they come from a request, and the request is largely dependent on the market realities at the given moment. So the topic comes on the table when it has to, and on this I would not reply on the other, for district heating or for energy storage. The topics are of course different, but you may have a look anyway at the reports and see the structure of these, and especially see how the working method, because because it appears in the reports, was chosen and organized. I think that's also something that you may get some inspiration
from what I've seen, a very collaborative work in the sense of heavily involving also members of the group.
Yes, the thing is that you have at least, well, it depends on the working groups, but they meet several times over the 1 or 2 years of the work they have to deliver, and they can meet from 5 to 10 times. Of course, they have to do their homework as well. So I mean, it's a demanding exercise, that's for sure. But the good thing is that you don't rely on 1 or 2 bodies, but rather 15 to 20, and that's the real added value.
Thank you very much, Hadrien, for sharing this experience. So I suggest we move to our next session within this intervention. We have a presentation of the European City Facility by Michele Sansoni. Over to you, Michele.
Thank you. So we mentioned the local level, the importance of the local level, in particular for energy efficiency, but I think that that includes also small-scale renewables. And so I think with my presentation, and I think with the next one, we will put the spotlight on some actors which are really key to deliver the energy transition on the ground, and they are cities. So why cities are key drivers for the energy transitions? Well, I think 3 main reasons. First of all, they have a potential for building a significant pipeline of investment projects because they have very ambitious targets, and usually the targets at local level, at city level, are even more ambitious than the targets at national level. Second, they have a convening power, and they have a key role in, on the one hand, aggregating smaller projects into a sizable package, which could be interesting for investors, but they can also convene the stakeholders which are relevant to make an investment project successful at local level. For instance, they gather companies, they gather SMEs, but they also gather citizens. And third, they have a unique opportunity to act as a catalyst to mobilize the private finance, which is needed. We saw it today to achieve the energy and climate targets. However, I mean, to take this opportunity, they need something because they need, first of all, capacity to transform their long-term strategies. I mean, in Europe, we have an initiative which is called Covenant of Mayors, and we have more than 10,000 signatories, 10,000 cities, which signed to the Covenant of Mayors and developed energy and climate plans. But we also have other energy and climate plans in cities, but they need to be transformed into projects. But cities, they lack resources to access dedicated expertise, in particular on the financial and legal issues. And third, so what we think is that they lack sufficiently mature, we call them investment concept, to access financing. And with investment concepts, we mean a document, a set of data which can translate technical ideas into financial terms. So something which can be understood easily by investors. So this is why the European Commission, based on these needs, devised a European city facility to bridge this gap. Because on the one hand, you have energy and climate strategies from cities, so potentially projects to be turned into concrete investments. And on the other hand, cities need to finance and implement those projects. And so you have investors who are looking for projects, while on city size, you have cities and project developers who are looking for money. So the European City Facility became a reality, is now an initiative which is managed by a consortium of organizations, is led by Energy Cities, and it is designed specifically to remove the entry barriers for cities to formulate their their investment programs. And the aim is to standardize sustainable energy projects so they can be attractive for investors, and they can convince them to put money into them. So how does it work? First of all, I mean, we learned today that there is a need for speed, so we devised an application process to this facility, which is very quick and very straightforward, so fast track. So cities apply, they fill in an application form which is very short compared to the usual application to other European program. And they get, if they are selected, a grant of 60,000 euros. So it might seem small money, but we have evidence that with this money and with capacity building, which is offered by the initiative, and guidance on the one hand, and with activities which try to connect cities and investors, with this 60,000, they can achieve a lot. So basically, this range of service will enable project developers to draft an investment concept, which is a first step in our view towards a business and financial plan. And it includes, for instance, a project pipeline, an analysis of the market, the barriers which need to be overcome, who are the local actors, which are the legal issues, and of course, which are the potential financing strategies and investment process. So with this document, because at the end of the day, it's a simple document, a city developer can meet an investor and have already a set of data and provide investors with information which is necessary to assess the investment project and start a dialogue to turn, hopefully, the energy project into investment packages. And with this, the aim is to facilitate the access to different funding sources, which can be private, which can be public, which can be a blend of private and public. And for instance, cities can access other public funds, we mentioned a lot of them today, to further develop their ideas, and they could be better prepared to apply for those funding programs, or they can go directly, if their idea is mature enough, they can go directly to a commercial bank or to a financing platform or to investment fund to see their project financed. So the initiative started in 2020 and has been very successful so far among cities because it receives 773 applications in 4 calls, and it selected 213 cities, including group of cities, because we know that aggregation is key, which were granted technical and financial support. So far, we have already 41 investment concepts developed, but other 172 are in the pipeline. And the initiative will be continued. It will organize 3 more calls in 2023 and 2024. And by 2027, the aim is to have involved and engage more than 420 cities which would have developed their investment concept. So the main sectors target so far by these concepts are renovation of public and private buildings, district heating, building integrated renewables, and innovative energy infrastructures. So at least some of the unsexy sectors that we mentioned this morning, but that became a security issue. And I wanted to bring you 2 experiences from 2 cities. One in Portugal, Cascais. They developed an investment concept for the development of a community-based renewable energy production. So they want to basically cover almost 1/4 of the electricity consumption of the municipality with PV plants. And they expect investments of more than 250 million euros. So the city facility helped them to develop this project further and to support their ambition to become a climate neutral city. And the second one is Brussels. So Brussels is a region. It's composed of 19 municipalities, for those who don't know. And so with applying for the European City Facility, the regional government, the 19 municipalities of Brussels and the DSO, Sibelga, developed a concept for renovation of public buildings, and they will also include the development of a one-stop shop, and they expect investment by 2040 of more than 880 million euros. So looking forward, the initiative worked a lot on the building of this machine to manage the money which was provided by the European Commission and to fund cities. But now it's time to bring this investment concept which are being developed to the market. So it's a new phase for the European City Facility, and the facility will organize matchmaking activities for investors, will develop tools to make available and accessible the information and the potential opportunities included in this in the developed investment concept, because the aim is to convince and gain trust on the one hand of political stakeholders, and on the other hand of investors, and to showcase the financing opportunities which were created. And eventually the vision, is to create a blueprint, because beyond the current EU initiative, we said that public money at a certain moment is over, could be replicated at national and regional level. So what's in it for investors, which I think it's relevant today. First of all, investment opportunities, because if you think of 420 potential investment projects across Europe that from cities, that should be interesting, and that includes also potential for application for technical assistance, like programs like ENER or PDA, Project Development Assistance Facility. The facility will also facilitate the packaging of municipal investment portfolios at scale by aggregating smaller projects, bundling them, and trying to make a critical mass, which is interesting for investors. On the other hand, the city offers, so through these investment concepts, will be more mature, will be standardized, and will be presented in a way to convince the investors. And the ambition here is to have a sort of a seal of trust. So if something is coming to you, investor, from the European City Facility, then it's something which was developed in a certain way, with certain assurance on the maturity of the potential project. And last but not least, of course, tailored activities to match supply and demand, to match project and investors, and also to get inputs and contribution from the financial world, which is key to better shape the tool and the facility. And the first event is planned in June 2023 during the European Sustainable Energy Week. So you're all invited, and if you follow the facility on the website or on Twitter, you will get all the information needed to participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well, Michele. Now I invite Luigi to tell us more about another initiative at city level which contributes to reaching the objectives of REPowerEU, and that's the Smart Cities Marketplace. Luigi, over to you.
Does it work?
Yep.
I've been told to keep it to 10 minutes, so I will. And we can have maybe still some minutes for some questions. The Smart Cities Marketplace is another facility, initiative, if you want to use the words of Michele, in the universe of what the European Commission is doing to accelerate the climate transition. It doesn't cover only the clean energy, but also sustainable mobility and the digital solutions that obviously serve the same purpose. Tsvetelina, is it the green button I have to play? Just
Green button there.
right. So it is still DG Energy that is leading from the point of view of the Commission. I am representing the initiative from the side of the contractor. The objectives are obviously to facilitate the matching between financing coming from private sources, especially with city-led projects, smart projects that are sustainable, to provide them support locally and also locally, and obviously to, let's say, contribute to the dissemination of and identification and dissemination of blueprints. I will try to avoid the repetitions with what the other initiatives are doing, because the message that I want you to go home with today, and I spoke also with Michele before, is not about the differences of the different instruments, but about what the complementarities are. Behind what you see from the websites of the different initiatives and at the meetings, the message is that there is an integrated teams, if you like, integrated teams, and ideally seamless service that the Commission wants to provide to all the stakeholders, and the same applies to the investor side. Just an important premise, I think. The initiative ends in this first phase, which is actually the second, in 2026. We have a secretariat, the ENER already said, and very importantly, the investor network that we try to expand. A couple of words on that later, and obviously we cooperate on the sides with other initiatives and with the stakeholders. Some of the entities that are committed to follow and cooperate with the program are mentioned, indicated in this slide. As I said, we are trying to expand it, so a first invitation to all the interested investors here, since there is a diversity of needs from cities, also in the context of the REPowerEU. Not everyone is going for a big ticket, but especially small and medium-sized cities may have, even if bundled, aggregated, have different needs. Topic-wise, not necessarily only in energy efficiency, but it may be another area of clean energy. Not necessarily only in energy, maybe on sustainable mobility, as I said. Please let us know, because we may have a smart city project of which we already pre-assess the maturity to discuss with you. And here, how we do it. So basically, we contribute to support the mobilization of investment through some services that are very tailored around the different profiles of cities that we have. By city, I should say city-led consortia, because obviously in every city there are always other parties involved. There may be also a project developer, it can be already an investor, it can be also some other parties of the city, organizations like NGOs or other associations. And for all of them, depending on the maturity, which we assess and document progressively, we are able to reach a deal phase, where basically we have, on the one hand, an interested investor of whom we know already what kind of documentations they need to perform the assessment of the interest of the smart city, of the investment concept, if you like. And on the other, you have the city-led consortium with the interest and the readiness to and capacity to implement. What we provide to make this happen is starting from the proactive engage phase, where basically we go out and try to spread the news and tell them how the system works, an explore phase where they are less mature, not ready to meet an investor yet, but ready enough to enter into the service funnel, as we call it, and the shape phase, which is the most relevant, where we provide also locally, among other services, financial, legal, technical, and governance assistance, also locally deploying a team where the needs is. Another second message is, for instance, in terms of complementarities with what the European City Facility is doing, is that we don't give any grants. Why? Because as a complement, since already someone else are providing grants, sometimes the issue is not the money. Sometimes it's the knowledge, the expertise that is not available locally, or is the access to this expertise that is maybe not unknown by the entity in demand. The Smart Cities Marketplace try to respond to this need by having a ready to be mobilized team that once the interest, the need is well defined, is deployed locally in the city, and then for a number of days works with them hand in hand, trying to help them increase the maturity of the project initiative. We have also other services, obviously focusing on matchmaking events where we are more or less operational, so they go from general meetings into we explain how the system works, to one-to-one meetings where we really have basically the parties involved to be much more operational, webinars, financing master classes, peer-to-peer exchanges, etc. The contract is now coming out of the inception phase. This is the second edition of the service. It will be continued, as I said, until 2026. We were already at the Smart Cities World Expo Congress. It was very successful. We met and exchanged with a high number of entities from all the Smart City universe. We plan to launch the first call for applications in a month at the latest, and to have a plan of such activities already also on the website very shortly for the rest of the year. And you will see that in some instances these events will be joined with other initiatives. Challenges and opportunities ahead. You will again see that something is, as in the UCF, we want to enable the local parties with the purchasing power. Small and medium cities leaves more than 70% of the EU's urban population, so it is quite huge as a basin to be able to reach the climate targets, to activate that purchasing power, which needs to be in addition to what the member states are already doing, as also Hadrien said before. So we're talking about acceleration in terms of we need to do more. And to do more, we try to support the entities by bridging financial resources and investments, the needs the cities have. Also trying to, as also Hadrien explained, and Michele doing the same thing, learning from each other, identify what works, trying to make it scalable, try to make it applicable elsewhere, creating synergies also with each other, so there is a lot of work that happens that you don't see, but it happens. Here, last slide, to reassure Tsvetelina that I'm on time. You see basically some, not all of them, but the main other initiatives with whom we work. So if you're in connection with, as an investor, with one of them, it doesn't mean that you cannot cooperate with the others. To give you an example, in the life cycle of an initiative, there may be a moment where there is a call that is closing, for instance, with the UCF. So the focus of the team may be on the assessment and less maybe on the spreading and dissemination of information, or less on the deals, whereas in the smart cities marketplace, we may be more active on that front. So again, this is also a message for you, an invitation to proactively enter into a dialogue with us. The contact details to reach us is here, and I'm sure Tsvetelina will tell you then how to continue the conversation afterwards. I thank you all.
Thank you very much.
I get back to my seat.
Thank you. All right, we have time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Until we get some volunteers, maybe a question from me towards both of you. Luigi, in particular, you spoke a lot about synergies, especially in the cities space. How about synergy with the investors dialogue for energy? Do you have already any thoughts on where there is potential for making use of each other's work in this space?
Can we first use synergy with each other and maybe make this work?
Well, maybe then we can try with...
Okay, thank you. Well, as I said, we are meeting with, already in Barcelona was one instance, but also besides the events last week, I had 2 investors, private, that contacted us to reaching out saying we're looking for projects to finance in this area. Can we know more about how we could do it with you? What kind of projects you have? And also we are interested in finding out what kind of documents they need to assess a project, what the appetite is, what the tickets are to work with, what kind of also instruments they like to work with, so we can better do the triage as you do in the hospital, you know, basically dispatch everyone into the right place, not to wait too much, and to accelerate overall the process. This is, I think, a very concrete way to do it, and I invite everyone to do the same.
Thank you. And Michele, from your point of view, where do you see the main potential for synergies between these different initiatives?
Yeah, definitely we are interested in the audience of the investor dialogue. I mean, cities need investors, so and investors need to know what cities are developing and what they have to offer. I think initiatives like the European City Facility and the Smart Cities Marketplace, if I may include it, can contribute to your mapping, to your understanding of the investment trends, to the feedback on which know-how is needed at local level to overcome the barriers that you mentioned before, in particular the technical barriers, the political, regulatory, and social barriers, because these are really constraints for the local actors. And I mean, you will have a lot of cases to analyze to see which cases were successful and why, but also it doesn't have to be underestimated which cases were not successful and why. So what is not working, what is missing in terms of financial schemes which can be used by local authorities, what about the understanding of risks at local level on energy efficiency, on small-scale renewables, what is the aggregation level which is needed to reach this critical mass, and yeah, and basically, as also was mentioned before, what makes a local project attractive for an investor.
I definitely look forward to exchanging with you, especially on the topic of aggregation. It's popped up in several of the discussions we've had with working groups. Final comment?
May I just one very important thing, the benefits. Also, it's important to know what kind of benefits and then how to monetize them is a different discussion, very complex. But it is also important to for investors understand what kind of benefits cities are behind. It's not just a matter of figures. It's not just a matter of tickets. It's not just a matter of the technical details of a project. It is very much also what kind of benefits are associated to the different options for investment for a city. And there is an interest of investors also in engaging in this kind of responsible, if you like, finance. To be on the same page. From the environmental point of view, the social point of view, these are all, I think, very important aspects for all of us. Adriana, I don't know if you agree.
Of course, if you have any remarks, Adrian, feel free. No. Any questions from the audience? If not, I think we can close this session, so please join me in applause for our presenters and moderators.
Thank you.